So that when I was trying to create an alien, I realized that I had something that was really different, and that if I could, I would show people what plants are capable of, except for thinking. Everything in semiosis that plants do are things that plants can do here, and they do here. So we think we're in charge, but they know better.
Work on the novel before you went to Spain. You went to Spain for about 16 years, and that's a way to immerse yourself in this culture. And you wrote most of the novel in Spain. Do you think the novel would be essentially the same if you hadn't gone to Spain, if you stayed in the United States, or does it make an essential difference to the novel that you composed most of it in Spain?
I think it helped just in general having the feeling that I was in a very different place. And how does it feel to be elsewhere? Another thing I did was sometimes I had music, or excuse me, just a recording from what it sounded like from the sounds of jungle, Central American jungle. And I would play that as I was writing, and with the hopes that that would seep in, is that the characters are in a place that does not sound like something that someone in Chicago would be hearing if they went outside. So I tried to get in that mindset. I think it helped to be in some place that was very different.
That I love that anecdote about using jungle sounds. It quickly recalls the time I've spent in the jungles of Borneo and waking up to the sounds and um, feeling very different, removed from what was normal to me. And that's a wonderful little little story. Um, I think your novel creates the experience of unfathomable otherness, of unfathomable difference in other forms of life. This is a type of consciousness that's valuable to us because it seeks to understand what it doesn't know instead of imposing doctrine and dogma on itself and others. We need this type of consciousness as human beings to grow and to develop and to make discoveries rather than just repeating what is already known, repeating doctrine and dogma unthinkingly, simply repeating the errors of the past. We also need this type of consciousness to be cautious and limit actions that can have harmful, unanticipated results. This consciousness is demonstrated by the questions that are asked, by a willingness to remain conscious of what is not known. And that's what I notice in your novel. I'm intrigued by what I see as the consciousness in your novel of the elements of doubt, uncertainty, contradiction, dilemma, and ambivalence. This type of consciousness also has an awareness that some things are unknown and perhaps essentially unknowable. In the narration of your novel, the narrators often ask questions about what they don't have answers, and sometimes ask about what questions about what they may never have answers. Some of these narrators question themselves, have doubts about themselves, and are aware that there are things they don't know about themselves. I think your novel attains brilliance in the experience it creates of the consciousness of this state of mind. So that's a long explanation. My question is, Do you agree or disagree with what I've said about the experience that your novel creates for the reader?
Well, I hope it does that. Again, you try. You don't know if you succeeded. If you say I did, then I'm very, very happy. Um, and I'm reminded there was a point in there where I remember I was writing from the point of view of Steve Lind, who was the bamboo, and I said that well sometimes the characters talk. At the end of one of the sections, he was telling me that he was getting very frustrated, and there's this the day is long. Answer me. That came from his character living in my head was starting to spew dialogue at me, and I was just typing it, going, "Yeah, I can understand how you'd feel that way." But yeah, he was getting very very frustrated for reasons that I knew. But beyond that, sometimes I joke that one of my goals in writing the novel is to make you afraid of your houseplants. Um, and by that, what I mean, I should go back to how I started this whole thing, which was I have a lot of houseplants. And in, I think it was 1995, one of my houseplants I discovered had grown around another houseplant and killed it and used it as a way to climb up to get to more sunshine. And when I discovered that, I felt bad because I should have been paying more attention. I was very busy with work at the time. But okay, so one of my houseplants killed another one of my houseplants. A month later, another one of my plants attacked another plant. Now I caught that one in time, but I was starting to think this is suspicious. There was a plant researcher in the 1700s who said that in any given place and time, all plants are in a state of war against each other. That is, that they compete intensely for sunshine, and then for water and for other nutrients, and they're fighting with each other all the time. Um, since the 1700s, you learn that sometimes they cooperate too. It's really very complex, but plants are nasty. Plants are horrible. Plants are murderous. They have all sorts of skills, all sorts of abilities. They can do everything but set a fire, but they can, if a fire breaks out, use that fire to attack other plants, and to survive it itself. They poison each other. They use insects to attack other plants, to attack other animals. The way they treat insects is awful. We're lucky we're big because they're just, they, what they do to plant insects is really unforgivable. Um, but they also cooperate. So plants are really complicated. Plants can do all sorts of things. Plants are very attuned to their environment. Um, we think of them as just passive little things that sit there and maybe look pretty, but they are active, they are aggressive. Every plant has a secret plan to take over the planet. Um, so that when I was trying to create an alien, I realized that I had something that was really different, and that if I could, I would show people what plants are capable of, except for thinking. Everything in semiosis that plants do are things that plants can do here, and they do here. Um, and I was excited to be able to write something that would incorporate as much of that as possible to show that plants are part of our environment and are very much shaping the environment around us. We think we're in charge, but they know better.
Okay, and I have a wonderful ficus plant here, a huge ficus plant in my office here. But going back to what I said a few minutes ago, I was talking about this element of consciousness, um, which I feel is a deliberate part of your novel, and requires on an awareness of the unknown, of the limitations in our thinking, of the difference in otherness in other beings. When I described all those elements to you, um, does that description sound familiar to you as an aspect of your own consciousness experience? Does that sound like you? Does that sound like what you experience?
Um, yeah, I tried to reflect in the book that plants just have a totally different take on the world, on the questions of survival and the questions of how to get through the day and to express that. And that, you know, we are surrounded by things that are totally unlike us. And it's not so plain. Fungus is really hard to understand. Um, the life around us is the more I learn, the more amazing it is. The world we live in. Um, so I did try to show that. Um, I had a point to make, and now I forgot.
Oh, that happens to me all the time.
Hmm.
So I have to write notes to myself even as I'm listening to you.
Oh, I remember what I was trying to say, and this is important. There is a debate right now among botanists, and it's pretty fierce. Can plants think? Maybe they can. They seem to sometimes make decisions. They understand a lot about what's going on. Um, they can respond in certain ways. For example, if a specific kind of caterpillar starts eating the leaves of a tomato plant, the tomato plant can send out a scent that is going to attract a wasp that will come and kill the caterpillars. And if that doesn't work, it can put something in its leaves that will turn the caterpillars into cannibals and they will start eating each other. And when I said plants are horrible, oh yeah, plants just do terrible things. Which is pretty amazing. But how do they do this? How do they know? What makes them decide? Because what is the tipping point? Because they don't necessarily respond the same way every single time. Some plants do these things, some plants do other things. But can they think? We That's a debate going on right now. My answer is I made it up for my book, but sometimes I make things up and it turns out to be true. One of, particularly in science fiction, you're playing what if all the time. Well, what if this happened? Well, what if that happened? Um, and then what would be the story? So I had the idea, well, what if plants could think? And they have all of these other things that they can do. Well, what if plants could think? Well, how could I make a story around that? And I thought the best way would be put it on another planet. So, okay.